As I sat on the crowded bus, little did I know that I was about to witness a clash of entitlement and compassion. The encounter with Karen, a self-centered woman, unfolded before my eyes, challenging my patience and standing up for what's right. It all started when Karen steals bus seat from a grandma, claiming she's too old to be disabled. Here's how it all went down. I never thought I'd encounter someone as infuriating as Karen, but there I was, on a sunny Tuesday afternoon, witnessing an event that would stick with me for a long time. I was in a crowded bus in the heart of the city, the kind where you're lucky to find a seat. I was standing near the front holding onto a pole for dear life as the bus lurched through traffic. That's when she boarded. Karen, with her oversized sunglasses and a sense of entitlement that seemed to radiate off her like some toxic aura. She scanned the bus, her eyes landing on an elderly woman seated in the priority seating area. The woman looked frail, her hands trembling slightly on the cane resting between her legs. "Excuse me," Karen's voice sliced through the hum of the bus. "You need to give me that seat." The old woman looked up, confusion etched across her face. "I'm sorry, dear, but I need this seat. I have a bad leg." Karen scoffed, loud enough for half the bus to hear. "You're too old to be disabled. You're just old. I've had a long day and I need to sit." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The audacity of this woman was astounding. Around us, people started to murmur, some shaking their heads in disbelief. "Age doesn't negate disability," I found myself saying, my voice steady despite my boiling anger. "She needs that seat more than you do." Karen turned her glare on me. "Stay out of this. This doesn't concern you." But it did. It concerned everyone who witnessed this blatant disrespect and entitlement. The bus driver, catching wind of the commotion, called out from his seat, "Ma'am, please leave the lady alone. She has every right to that seat." Karen huffed, standing her ground. "This is ridiculous. I'm a paying customer. I deserve to sit." The elderly woman, meanwhile, looked like she wanted to disappear into her seat, her hands gripping her cane even tighter. I felt a surge of protectiveness towards her. "Being a paying customer doesn't give you the right to be a bully," I retorted, my patience wearing thin. Karen's face reddened, her lips pursed in anger. "You people are unbelievable. I'm being discriminated against." The bus driver, now standing, approached us. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to either find another seat or leave the bus." Karen's outrage was palpable. "I'm not going anywhere. This is unfair treatment." As the argument escalated, the bus had come to a standstill, the driver unwilling to move until the situation was resolved. Passengers began to voice their annoyance, some siding with Karen, but most in support of the elderly woman. Finally, with a dramatic huff, Karen stomped to the back of the bus, muttering under her breath about injustice and poor customer service. The tension in the air slowly dissipated, and the bus resumed its journey. I moved closer to the elderly woman, offering a smile. "Are you okay?" She nodded, her eyes moist. "Thank you, dear. I didn't know what to do." "It's okay," I reassured her. "Some people just don't understand." The rest of the ride passed in relative silence, the earlier drama hanging over us like a dark cloud. When my stop arrived, I got off the bus, the image of Karen's furious face etched in my memory. But the story didn't end there. A few days later, I saw Karen again. This time, we were in a coffee shop. She recognized me instantly, her eyes narrowing as she approached my table. "You," she spat. "You're that person from the bus." I braced myself, knowing this encounter wouldn't be pleasant. "Yes, I am. Can I help you?" Karen leaned in, her voice low and menacing. "You embarrassed me on that bus. You made me look like a fool." "You did that all by yourself," I replied calmly, though my heart was racing. Her face turned a shade of red I didn't think was possible. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Standing up for some old hag." I stood up, my patience finally snapping. "That old hag is someone's mother, someone's grandmother. She deserves respect and kindness, something you clearly know nothing about." Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, her anger rendering her speechless. I took that opportunity to leave the coffee shop, not wanting to escalate things further. As I walked away, I heard Karen's voice, shrill and filled with venom. "You'll regret this. People like you always do." Her words sent a chill down my spine, but I didn't look back. Some people, I realized, are just a lost cause. And Karen, with her stubbornness and repulsive attitude, was one of them. Karen's entitlement and lack of compassion is truly infuriating. Kudos to the person who stood up for the elderly woman and put Karen in her place. It's important to treat others with respect and kindness, regardless of their age or abilities. Let's hope encounters like these can serve as a reminder to be more considerate towards one another. A shocking revelation unfolds as a young protagonist, haunted by a painful past, confronts a web of deceit and secrets within their own family. Torn between anger and the desire for answers, they embark on a journey of self-discovery and healing. Here's how it all went down. I was raised by my father, alongside my older brothers Lyle and Kyle. They are twins. Mom left us shortly after I was born, so I've never really had a maternal figure growing up. I've tried to ask my dad why Mom left, but he would always try to dodge the question. Anyways, this kinda messed me up a little bit as a kid because I would always blame myself for her leaving. And it also didn't help that my older brothers would always use the old trusty, "You're why mom left" card in arguments. During my middle school years, my mother began to call me and my brothers. She swore up and down for years that she wanted me back in her life, but didn't make any effort to get to know me. So that woman broke a lot of promises with me and my brothers. The last straw for me was when she didn't come to a beauty pageant I'd been excited for months. I know that sounds really petty, but at the time it was really important to me, and she swore up and down that she would come. Of course, she broke that promise too. So when mom called to apologize for not, I let that woman have it. I think the call almost lasted an hour and a half, and it was mostly just me expressing my anger towards her. Obviously, ever since that phone call, I've been no contact with her. But a few days ago, my dad texted me if I wanted to have dinner with him and the boys, saying that he was going to make my favorite meal. Of course I agreed. I walk in the house and I hear my dad and my brothers talking. Nothing unusual, of course, but then I hear a woman laugh. So I walked to the kitchen and saw my dad, Lyle, and Kyle laughing and talking with my mother. So at this point, I'm upset and confused, and I think I thought out loud because I said, "What the heck is she doing here?" Everyone immediately becomes silent, until Dad starts talking. Basically, he says that I need to watch my tone, and that all they want to do is talk to me about their future. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Then, my mother had the great idea to drop the bombshell that she and Dad got back together and had been dating for months. I think you can understand how surprised I was from this information. But then Lyle tells me that basically everyone in the immediate family knew about the relationship besides me because they were worried about how I would react. So I'm still standing there, shaking with rage. So when my dad tried to grab my arm to sit me down so we could talk, I snatched it back and basically stormed out of the house. Now I've been bombarded with texts from my dad and Lyle saying I was immature and made mom cry. My friends are divided on the issue. So am I the jerk? I sent a text message to my dad expressing my frustration and desire for answers about the current situation. He agreed to talk but requested that we have dinner at his place. I had to remind him that I had lost trust in him when he tried to back me into a corner. He came over to my apartment, and for my own protection, I had my friend, M24, stay in my sewing room. Dad started sobbing and begging for forgiveness. He expressed his wish for us to be the family we were 20 years ago, a time that I don't even remember. I want to clarify that these were genuine tears, not fake ones. I hugged him to calm him down, but I made it clear that I wanted answers, not just tears. He composed himself a bit and proceeded to explain everything I asked him. Here's what he shared with me. My mom was very young when she got together with Dad, and there was a significant age gap between them. They started dating right after her high school graduation. My mother had a history of drug addiction, which I had suspected. She had overdosed once, and Dad had to rush her to the hospital. During this period, the twins suffered. I was an unplanned pregnancy, and my parents decided to put my mother in rehab during her pregnancy. However, she remained miserable, and after I was born, she ran away to Florida. Recently, Mom got clean, found a job, and wanted to apologize to Dad. They rekindled their relationship and decided that it would be best to inform the twins before telling me. It was helpful to have this information, and I thanked Dad for sharing it. However, I pointed out that my mom never apologized to the kids whose hearts she constantly broke. Dad tried to backpedal, saying that I should give her a chance to prove herself because the twins already had. It was also hurtful that he didn't even mention that Mom was back. I explained to him that I had given her too many chances already, and she had irreparably damaged our relationship. I clarified that I wasn't cutting them off completely, but Mom would just be the new woman in our lives. I proposed that we go to therapy without Mom before deciding on anything further. Dad was upset when I shared this with him, but he agreed to therapy and said he would inform Lyle and Kyle about it. Dad told the twins, and Kyle seemed down about the situation, but Lyle was furious. He repeatedly called and sent me hurtful text messages, accusing me of being a spoiled brat who needed to let go of the past. I gave him a piece of my mind before finally blocking him, and we haven't had any contact since. We had our first therapy session, which served as an introduction and an opportunity to discuss what we want to work on. I showed the therapist my previous post, when I was alone with her, to provide more context, as I tend to be scattered-brained at times. She expressed her interest in delving deeper into my feelings about my mother, as well as including my father and brothers in the therapy sessions if possible. Firstly, I'm doing pretty well. My time has been completely taken over at the salon where I work. Christmas is just around the corner, and I have stuff and materials that I need to get, lol. But don't worry, I've been making time for therapy with Kyle and Dad. We've been going once a week, and I think it's been helping a lot. The therapist has been helping me walk through my feelings about Mom. She's also been assisting my dad and Kyle as well. Kyle has since apologized to me about everything, basically. He's even opened up about his feelings and opinions about Mom. Though we're in a similar boat when it comes to that, Kyle is more anxious and scared about Mom leaving again than mad like me. I'm still 50-50 on my dad. He has apologized for ganging up on me, but hasn't sat down to talk with Mom and Lyle. Kyle literally had to be the one to yell at Lyle for basically going full psycho on me. Speaking of Lyle, he's still mad at me and still isn't joining us for therapy. Apparently, from what Kyle said, he's now mad at me for turning the family against him and Mom. I've been no contact with him and have blocked him on everything, while Kyle has low contact since seeing how he's been treating me. Family dynamics can be incredibly complex, and it's not always easy to navigate through disagreements and conflicting emotions. It's important to prioritize your own well-being and seek support when needed. Take care, and remember to be kind to yourself throughout your journey. For years, my birthday has been overshadowed by my cousins, with shared celebrations and a cake that never truly felt like mine. But this year, everything changed when I was promised my own separate cake, only to have it taken away at the last moment. Frustration and anger boiled over, leading to a dramatic confrontation that shattered the illusion of a happy birthday. Unfortunately, I was born a day after my cousin. Ever since I was little, my needs for my birthday were always overshadowed by hers. We always did family events to celebrate our birthdays since we're the oldest kids in our family, so we kind of just shared a birthday. We had the same cake. My family either never wrote my name on it or would messily scribble it on at the last minute. Party decorations and games catered to her taste, and mostly all gifts would be for her. I usually ended up getting a $10 gift card for Walmart or something, while she always got dolls, games for her Nintendo DS, and even a puppy one time. I always felt like I didn't matter for my birthday. Even my quinceañera fell flat since my family went all out making my cousin feel like the most special girl in the world. But my cousin was always nice to me, and she would give me some of her gifts just to put a smile on my face. This year was my 18th birthday, and all my relatives were gathered in one place to celebrate me and my cousin's birthdays. My mother had promised me my own separate cake, and that it would be an Oreo ice cream cake, my favorite cake. So I was excited. When my grandmother gathered the family together to blow out the candles and sing happy birthday, my cousin and I got in our respective spots. They started singing while my mother brought a cake to the table and placed it in front of my cousin. It was a strawberry cheesecake. After we finished singing, my cousin blew out her candles and everybody clapped. My aunt started to cut the cake and I audibly asked about my cake. My entire family looked confused, and they all said, "This cake is for both of you." My cousin spoke up saying, "But it only has my name on it." I looked to my mom, who had a puzzled expression on her face. I asked about the cake, and she told me, "You don't need the extra sugar." At that point, I just lost it, screaming at my family members and calling them all jerks. I cried about how this is the 15th year in a row that they've left me out and forgot about me, and how they ruined my birthday by always prioritizing my cousin. My cousin and little brother also jumped in and defended me, saying that I'm always never thought of. My grandmother had the audacity to deliberately interrupt me, telling me to sit down and stop yelling. Through anger, I yelled that I never wanted to see any of them again and stormed off. My cousin and brother followed me, both comforting me while I cried my eyes out. This happened a few days ago, and I've been receiving angry messages from my family members calling me an ungrateful jerk. I'm at my cousin's apartment right now writing this, all while texting my little brother to vent. Am I the jerk for yelling at my family for not giving me the cake that I've wanted for nearly my entire lifetime? After reading the replies, my cousin and I have made the tough decision to block all of the toxic family members and go non-contact. I'll be living at my cousin's apartment now, and we're working on finding me a job. A lot has happened within the last 5 months of the incident at what was supposed to be my 18th birthday party. There have been many ups and downs that have mentally drained me. Alright, first off, I blocked my family members. The toxic ones at least. A lot of commenters suggested this, so I took this as the best course of action. I have been receiving call after call from my family members chastising me for making a scene and breaking my cousin's trust with them. My cousin was appalled by their behavior towards me and decided to cut all of them out. I have been living with my cousin for about a month after that point. I was able to get a job and help out just a little. I started taking online classes and saving up some money for my own apartment because I felt like I was being too big of a burden for my cousin. My cousin tried to stress that I was welcome to stay as long as I needed, but I told her that I was ready to leave everything behind. Back in October, I was packing some things up to get ready to move. My cousin told a family friend about this, and said friend told my mother, who reached out to me on a burner account on Instagram, asking if we could meet up and talk. My heart ached when I realized who it was. I haven't heard from my mother for 4 months by that point, so I was admittedly skeptical. This may have been a dumb move, but I agreed to come, under the condition that my cousin assisted me. We met up at a local restaurant, and I saw my mother for the first time in months. She looked depressed and had lost a lot of weight and seemed happy to see me, for once. She tried to hug me, but I stopped her. She respected that. We sat down and began to talk, catching up with everything. At the end of the conversation, she apologized and asked if we could start things over. As much as I wanted a relationship with my parents, I just told her that I couldn't forgive her for the past 15 years of always making me feel unimportant and making me feel worthless after all this time. I told her that for once in my life, I was legitimately happy and that things would be better if we never spoke again. My mother, surprisingly, didn't contest this. She just hung her head and paid the bill. That happened a month ago. As of right now, I've moved far away from home halfway across the country. I'm still no contact with my parents and toxic family members. I live in a small apartment, and I have a decent job as a waitress. My cousin, little brother, and I chat from time to time, and we're still doing great. It's a bit quiet here, so I might adopt a puppy soon. I wish I could say it was a happy ending with a lot of drama and everybody clapped at the end, but it's best to just tell the truth. Thank you, everybody, for your advice. I hope to remind everyone of the importance of understanding and acknowledging each other's feelings, especially during special occasions. Let's strive to create inclusive and meaningful experiences for everyone, because small gestures can make a big difference. I never expected that my first date with her would lead me down this unexpected path. Little did I know, as I scrolled through TikTok, that her post would shatter the happiness I felt just hours before. Here's how it all went down. This is honestly not something I expected to post about, but here's the thing. I've known this woman for a while since we are in the same friend groups. She's a nice person, attractive, and honestly, I've always enjoyed my conversations with her. A few weeks ago, I asked her out on a date. I figured if she says no, it's fine, but she actually agreed. We went on a date this past Saturday, and honestly, I thought it was awesome. We went out to dinner, had drinks, spent the rest of the night talking, and we even took a walk on a walking bridge over the town's lake. It's not a big one. I dropped her off and was elated. I absolutely loved the night. However, that night when I was scrolling through TikTok on my bed, a post from her, I didn't follow nor knew she had a TikTok, appeared on my For You page. Essentially, she said in the post, "Getting ready for a date I really don't want to go to." That was like a bucket of ice water being thrown on my head. I was so freaking happy, and I just found out she didn't even want to go on a date with me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying she has to want it, but please let me know if that's the case. We don't need to go out. We can forget I even asked her out. But doing this on the internet, it made me self-conscious? Not sure if that's the right word. Now, I'm unsure about what to do. Should I tell her I saw this or just forget about it? Honestly, it really hurt me, and I'm not really sure I want to give this another try. I mean, she didn't want to go out with me in the first place, right? So I decided not to contact her. I chose to pretend I had never seen the post and let things be. I understand a lot of people might think this isn't the best choice, but I feel it is the best course for both of us. Last Thursday, a few friends who also happened to know her invited me for drinks. We went to a bar, and while we were eating and enjoying our drinks, a mutual friend asked me how my date went, as our circle was aware that we were going on a date. I didn't want to say much, so I just replied, "Oh, it was good, but I don't think we clicked." This friend followed it by saying, "We figured," which made me feel rather uneasy. When I asked what he was talking about, he hesitated but eventually said that they had seen a TikTok post from her about not wanting to go out. At this point, I didn't really know what to say. This situation is just incredibly messy for me, but there's not much I can do about it. Still, I wasn't going to mention it, nor did I try to look up if there was any update on her part. In fact, I deleted TikTok after that incident. It just wasn't doing me any good. Nevertheless, this past Saturday, she sent me a text. She mentioned that she enjoyed our date and asked if I wanted to go out again. I understand that she clearly stated that she enjoyed our time together. However, I don't want to be with someone who exposes so much of their personal life. It's not something that would be good for me. So, I decided to tell her the truth and sent a text explaining that while I absolutely enjoyed our date, her company, and that I thought she was an amazing woman, her post from the night of our date came across my For You page on TikTok, and it made me feel really self-conscious. While I understand that she enjoyed the date, contrary to what she felt at the time of the post, I didn't feel comfortable going out with someone who had such a high level of exposure online. I wished her the best and expressed hope that she finds someone whose lifestyle aligns with hers. She has read the message and left me on read ever since. I don't think she will reply, and I don't think we'll have a lot of social interactions going forward. What a difficult and uncomfortable situation for both parties involved. It's unfortunate that the OP stumbled upon the TikTok post and had their confidence shattered. Communication and honesty are crucial in any relationship, and it's understandable that the protagonist decided to express their concerns about the level of exposure shared online. It's a reminder that social media can have unintended consequences on personal relationships. Growing up, my dad was my rock, but everything changed when he met his new wife. Their religious and political differences tore us apart, and now I feel a deep disconnect. Here's how it all went down. I was closer to my dad when I was growing up than I am now. My parents divorced around 2005 when I was 6 or 7 years old. As a result, most of my time with my parents was spent going back and forth on weekends and having divided holidays. Although my mom technically had custody of me and my brother, we were never separated from our dad. The divorce was amicable, and we continued to have shared time with both parents for years without it affecting our relationship. However, things started to change when I entered high school. In the past, my dad used to drink a lot, but I don't remember him as a heavy drinker. I simply remember him as my dad. Perhaps I was too young to notice, as my older brother remembers it more than I do. My dad met a woman who helped him sober up, but she also introduced him to born-again Christianity, which completely changed his personality. He met this woman, who is now his wife, when I started high school. When they first got together, everything was fine. However, my dad soon decided to move almost an hour away from our hometown, but still expected my brother and me to visit him the same amount of time after school and on weekends. Both my brother and I started to dislike going back and forth. I remember feeling angry because I had to do schoolwork on school nights after driving an hour to see my dad. I was a high-achieving student with a lot of homework. He would get annoyed that I paid more attention to my schoolwork than to him. It became a struggle to give my dad all the attention he wanted instead of focusing on what I wanted or needed. And this caused me to resent him. I resented that he didn't consider mine or my brother's time. During one Christmas, he made us drive for an hour through a snowstorm on Christmas Eve. And the storm continued as we drove home on Christmas Day to see our mom's side of the family. My brother had just gotten his license, and I was 13 or 14 years old. I remember this vividly, because it was when I realized his narcissistic tendencies. Due to his wife's influence, my dad changed a lot. He became almost like a completely different person. He wasn't the dad I used to know, and I also started to resent his wife for that, even though it was probably good for him to sober up because of her. But I no longer recognized him, and I would get into fights with both of them during visits. I hated her for changing him, and I felt like I couldn't connect with him anymore. My brother and I were not raised in a religious household. We were given the choice to believe in what we wanted. However, after my dad changed, he started trying to impose his beliefs on us. My brother seems to handle it easily, but it drove me crazy. Our political beliefs are also completely opposite. I am very progressive, while he is very conservative. I don't want to debate here, but I feel that this context is important because it greatly affected my view of my dad. I didn't want it to, but when it started to involve hate towards women, I took it personally, and it hurt. It's like everything I believe in is considered devil worship to him. He feels the need to save me from myself. With all of this being said, it's very difficult for me to understand him, and it's hard for him to understand me. I would be fine if we just didn't talk about any of it, but it's like he's a missionary who feels it's his duty to change me and my entire personality. I've had multiple conversations with him, expressing that I don't want to discuss our beliefs anymore because it does more harm than good. But he continues to bring it up incessantly. I no longer feel a strong connection to him. It feels shallow and forced, and seeing him feels like an obligation or a chore. He is trying to stay connected with me, and I appreciate his effort. He is trying to find common ground that doesn't involve religion or politics. However, I find it difficult to give him my time and attention anymore. I feel guilty about it, but I'm 25 years old now, and I have so much going on in my life that requires my attention. I just don't know how to connect with him anymore, and I'm okay with that, but he isn't. He constantly tries to be a part of my life, and I feel terrible about it, but I am much more comfortable with the distance I've created between us. Everyone tells me that I should try to stay connected more. Am I a jerk by not wanting him to be heavily involved in my life? It's a reminder that maintaining a connection with someone doesn't always come easily, and it's okay to prioritize your own well-being and peace of mind. Remember, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to navigating familial dynamics, and it's ultimately up to you to decide what feels right for you. Take care. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now or you're definitely the jerk.